As you know, Tongariro volcano erupted around about midnight last night. The eruption went to about 20,000 feet, which is pretty significant in aviation terms. The plume from that eruption now extends between the mountain and Hawke's Bay. At 20,000 feet, as I said, there's ash falling from the plume, so aviation can't operate under the plume or through the plume, of course. It can operate near to the plume, providing it remains out of the ash. This means that airports such as Gisborne, Hawke's Bay and Taupo have been affected by the ash plume, so services into those areas have been cancelled in some cases, I understand. We are looking for the whole plume to move off to the east of the North Island by mid-evening tonight, so that will be the end of the plume unless there's a further eruption. If there is a further eruption, the incoming depression and frontal regime will move the ash in different directions, and we'll have to assess that when it occurs and if it occurs.
It seems to have been quiet around Mount Tongariro overnight. No further activity has been reported. But scientists monitoring the area say they still can't rule out more explosive bursts. They're warning it could blow any time after the Te Mare craters erupted, sending rocks a kilometre into the air and spewing ash as far as Napier. Ruth Wynne-Williams joins us now live with the latest. Ruth.
That's right, Melissa. Residents here are being warned that heightened activity could continue for not just the next few days, but for the next few weeks as well. GNS and DOC are about to start carrying out risk assessment on the hills. You'll remember from yesterday, the huts up there were extensively damaged, and there was also some boulder damage to the walking tracks. There's a very popular walking track that goes through the Tongariro, and there has been some damage there as well. Residents have returned home. There was quite a bit of rain here overnight, and that's expected to have dampened down that volcanic dust quite a lot. We'll have more on that for you when the sun comes up here, and we're also hoping to be able to show you perhaps some of the damage on that mountain should the cloud lift today.
Great, thanks for the update, Ruth Wynne-Williams, live from Tongariro. And scientists are hoping the results of ash tests today will shed light on what caused the eruption. They've taken samples from close to the crater. Results will show whether it was steam-driven or if magma is present, which they say could be of some concern. Scientists will be back assessing the area today.
What you need to do is have a good look from a helicopter or a plane to really see what's gone on before we can really make a proper assessment of whether we can do anything else and what may happen in the future.
He says they're monitoring the area 24/7 and will be on the job for as long as...
Let's get an update now on the situation on Mount Tongariro from our reporter Ruth Wynne-Williams. Good morning, Ruth. What can you tell us this morning?
The weather is still not good here, Rawdon, and that's a problem for GNS scientists and for DOC, who are hoping to get up there again today and do a bit more of a risk assessment and just check out the damage up there. You'll recall from last night's news there was some extensive damage to one of the huts. They've also been able to have a bit of a wander around on foot up there, but they were hoping to just check out just the scale of that damage today, and yeah, it's not looking good for that at this stage, but of course that may change throughout the day. That cloud didn't lift terribly much yesterday, and to be honest, it's already looks like it's hanging quite low here today, so that's a bit of a problem. GNS has been warning that volcanic activity will continue for some time, while the volcanic activity the night before last was short. They think it only lasted, 1 to 2 minutes. It could be a sign of further activity to come. They say that activity could last a few days, it could last a few weeks. There's just no way of knowing, how long's a piece of string. And, that's causing quite some concern for residents around here too.
Situation, okay, so DOC wants to go and look at the damage to see whether they can open trails and huts and tracks up, or what has to be done to make it safe. And the other side of the coin is you've got GNS there and the volcanologists probably from all over have probably all arrived to try and work out, obviously quite excited about this sort of activity, but also to work out what future impact could be. So what do they do? Are they sort of gathered around waiting to go up the mountain, or do they work from a centre with various equipment? I mean, what exactly are they getting up to today?
Well, we've actually seen them out on the streets here already, Rawdon. You know, I arrived down here about 6 o'clock yesterday morning. We were here very early, and I can tell you they were already out on the streets. They've got little plastic bags, little testing kits. They were measuring the amount of ash. There are various tests that they can do with the ash that has been deposited down here, but you know, obviously that ash, I mean, one can only assume that's similar ash to what they've already seen up the top of that mountain, and they do know a fair bit about the type of explosion that it was. It was an explosion that was generated by steam, and I'm told it would take a lot for, you know, a magma type of explosion. You know, it takes quite a considerable build-up of pressure to create an explosion that would deposit magma down in this part of the country, you know, further down from the volcano. So of course they'll be, you know, checking pressure, they'll be monitoring the activity up there at the moment, and they can do that from down here. They do have equipment that's already set up and has been set up for quite some time to monitor those levels.
And of course, Ruth, the third element here is residents and visitors to the area. I assume that the police are going to be out today giving more advice. I mean, we saw a lot. We've just been looking at the pictures of the ash, and last night on the news we saw a lot of people who'd taken various precautions whilst starting the clean-up. So the police's job today is more public information, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. There was some concern. I spent quite some time at one of the local maraes yesterday, and there was some concern from them that some of their kaumātua didn't want to leave their homes. You know, there's a bit of an attitude, if the mountain goes, so do I. You know, the Māori people here, their culture is intrinsically linked to the landmarks here, and that mountain is culturally important. You know, I think one of them even said, and I think we played it on a track on last night's news, you know, one of them said, what a moment in history. I feel privileged to have witnessed the mountain go. And there was some concern up at the marae that, you know, their elderly, their kaumātua weren't leaving their homes, and they were putting themselves at risk of things like respiratory problems and things like that. As I mentioned, it has been quite drizzly here, and that's great news for sort of dampening down that ash. And to be honest, the ash was very patchy, Rawdon. You know, there were some parts of the countryside that didn't see any at all. It was very much dependent on the wind, so, you know, some areas are okay. But there's a real focus now on being prepared for later. If the mountain does go again, you know, make sure that those people are prepared to move and put an action plan in place.
All right, thank you very much. That's Ruth Wynne Williams from Tongariro.